Welcome to Meet the Moment podcast produced by the Real Estate Business Institute. This podcast is an exploration of what today's industry leaders and agents need to know to be profitable, productive, and have fun. I'm Matthew Rathbun, and I'm joined by co-host Kimberly Allard as we chat with thought leaders, brokers, and agents who can help agents meet the moment of change in the real estate industry.
Hi everyone, I'm Kimberly Allard, and I'm thrilled to bring you something very special in this episode. What you need to know is during the 2025 Realtor Legislative Meetings in DC, my amazing co-host Matthew Rathbun, who also happens to be the 2025 REBI Institute President, joined an exceptional panel for a live discussion on stage. This session was titled The Future-Proof Brokerage, Culture, Growth, and Reinvention in a Changing Market. He was joined by some industry powerhouses, names that will be very familiar to you. Holly Mabery, the 2025 REBI President-elect. Holly is also the Senior Vice President of Brokerage Operations at eXp Realty. And joining Matthew and Holly was Adorna Carroll, the 2016 REBI President and the President of Dynamic Directions. Together, these three explored really what forward-thinking leadership looks like in today's shifting real estate landscape. They also shared innovative growth strategies and left the attendees that day with some truly actionable takeaways. So we're very excited to share that full conversation with you now. So please sit back, take notes, and get ready to be inspired.
What do you need? Mic? Okay, this is a good thing. Now, this is the opportunity for me to tower over these icons to be able to ask some questions. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to ask questions. Some of them will be for each of you to answer. And then we're going to go into another round, and we're going to go to rapid fire. Now, let me make sure you understand that. That means that you don't have 10 minutes to pontificate on a particular subject matter. That means you're going to answer 30, 60 seconds, and we're going to go to the next one. Do you have it? Because we want to allow our wonderful audience an opportunity to ask questions of you all at the end. Do y'all have the instructions should you choose to accept it?
Let's go.
Okay, here we go. Question number one. What is the one thing brokerages must do differently in the next 12 to 24 months to stay relevant? So why don't we just, Holly, since you started with scissors and all, how about you answer that for us first?
It's relationships. I think the great equalizer right now, the tech stacks and everything that everybody is moving forward and has usually differentiated one brokerage from another, AI has leveled that playing field, and it will continue to at a very rapid pace. And so that idea that, I can offer this tech stack and people will join me, that's lovely. I think commission splits get people in the door, but what keeps people at a brokerage is going to be the relationship and that real-time guidance that they have on demand from mentorship, from connectivity to the senior leaders in the company, as well as their brokers. Like, they need to know that the broker's got their back at every turn. And that's going to be the game changer in the next 12, 24 months.
Very good. You say relationships. Is that what we got from you?
Yeah.
Well, see that you all don't like each other. How about we ask somebody else the same question? Okay, Adorna, what is the one thing in the next 12 to 24 months that brokers need to do to stay relevant in this industry?
I'm going to go with skilled proficiency. And I'm going there for a reason, because they don't know what they don't know. And to compete in the market environment that we're facing, everything is changing. And to bring aboard all of the agents that they have in their offices, most of which now have come in the business in the last 5 years and have no perspective whatsoever on the fact that there's other market environments. Everyone's got to get back in a classroom. And when they do that, the focus really should be, and that I'm going to get a little aggressive here.
No. You all signed up for this, just so you know. You decided to come here.
Okay, come on. I haven't even gotten started. But I think what they have to look at is realizing that consumers are looking for transparency of fees. And if we want to keep ourselves out of, litigation, further litigation and additional risk, we've got to separate those fees out so that the buyer in a buyer agreement has hired their agent for whatever that fee is supposed to be, and the seller and the listing agent has done their part. And then at that point, we're going to use the proceeds of the sale to settle all the debt. If we can get to that point, I am going to tell you, I think we'll all be way better off instead of putting our fees in the center of the argument. And so that's really where I think we need to be. Brokers need to get back in a classroom, and some of them have not been in a classroom in like 30 freaking years.
So you want to tell us really how you feel?
Yeah.
Okay. Matt, now that you've listened, what do you think is
I'm going to say it a little differently. Humanization. Humanization of the process has gone away. And we talk about this beyond your personal relationship, we talk about these things. I need to know where the consumer is. I need to not follow, but lead them to a better solution. And right now the consumer is uploading the contract your agent wrote into AI and asking it questions because it doesn't give a shit about what we said. It doesn't trust us, right? And the broker is sitting there going, what do I do with this? Well, this process started 2 years ago to be a major impact in the marketplace. And while brokers were freaking the hell out over the Department of Justice and, oh my God, my buyers are going to have to now show value, the fundamental problem we had was what the agents did not have to show value till now, and now they're surprised that they do. That isn't the agent's fault. That was a lack of supervision. That was a lack of leadership. That was a lack of authenticity in relationship. And when we're sitting here looking at building offices, we celebrate brokers who have 350 agents, even though 5 of them are doing business and 4 of them have good reputations. And the associations, the brokers will talk about numbers all the time, but they don't talk about humanization. And I love my AI. And I think it's impressive that the AI companies are trying to make it more human, but we're not trying to make people more human. Those agents need to feel safe. You want a company that's going to survive. It isn't about the split. They'll get that anywhere. It's about the return for the split. And the tech stack I completely agree with. Everybody has one, but nobody shows them how to use it. And all of that starts with exemplifying that as a broker. I think video is super important. You guys should do this. I think value proposition. NAR published 179 things that an agent does for a listing, 105 things that a buyer agent does for a buyer. My question is, what are you as a broker teaching to be the 106th thing as a buyer agent, the 180th thing as a listing agent to truly set them apart? Because door knocking and open houses and all that crap that statistically don't work wasn't a solution they were looking for. It was the humanization. I'll take WTF for 100, Bob.
Thank you so much for that. Thank you very much. I want to segue on that because we'll lead right back into it. My next question sort of lends itself to that. All 3 of you, I'd love a response from you on this question.
I love your shoes.
What is the number one thing that wins top agents today? Is it still splits, or has the game changed? Adorna, would you, or you, no, maybe we'll have you in class, because you might go over. You want to go first?
Sure.
Okay.
I think I'm going to say it really depends on what kind of agent you're trying to attract. There are certainly agents that can be bought. Some because they have cash flow issues and that it's a right time for them, and that can be very good for them, or it can be harmful when they realize there's no escape plan after that, when they landed somewhere they're not really happy. I've always gone to culture. And, you know, when I had the brokerage, I attracted medium producers, and they were always looking for similar core values, and they were looking for support systems more than anything else. And, you know, I had very little turnover, which I really appreciated. And these are just that's been a basic business model for me for whatever business I happen to be running at that period in time. So I always go for culture and core values. I think it's easier. I think everyone's a lot happier. I find them to be incredibly productive after that. And there's very little turnover, which I think is the most important part. I invest an awful lot initially in getting someone onboarded, and you know, that's if I can keep them and they're willing to stay and they're happy and they're productive, then the investment just makes a whole lot more sense.
Very good. Well, thank you for that one. There's an adage, you know, that people talk about all the time. It says people want to know how much you care before they want to know how much you know, right? So as you allude to that, it says that maybe agents don't leave for the money. That there are other things that are intangible things that they're looking for. But what brokers do, the first thing they do is they throw out what? More money. That's the first thing they do. Holly, what do you think?
I agree with Adorna. I think that it's really important in whatever size business model you have, whether you're looking at 5 agents or you're looking at 50,000, when you have that key for culture and the relationship, because if you're looking at top producers, they want a place to land where they may not have to come to the broker for all the questions, like maybe a newer agent or somebody just getting their feet wet into the industry. They have a pretty good idea of what they're doing, but they need a dialogue with the broker to be able to have a nuanced conversation. And I think that opportunity, it's that leveling up for our managing brokers and our supervising brokers to be able to have a nuanced conversation, if this then that on a Tuesday, but it depends on the seller and who do you represent again? Like those kinds of things I think are going to assist people in confidence in their brokerage. I think that the splits is just an opening statement that everybody throws out. It's like, what's your split? Okay, I may or may not talk to you, but tell me about what you give to me. How do I have access to things that I need? And I know for our company, one of the things that has been wildly popular that we've implemented in the last year and a half is Zillow Flex. Our Zillow Flex teams, because that is such a high demand, very challenged market and nuance. And we've got these teams who are cultivating these leads and they need assistance. They just need this mastermind. So we facilitate one weekly where they all come together, we bring people together, we share ideas, and we just facilitate it. It's a space for them to come into. And those type of nuanced trainings or masterminds that allow agents to help solution, but with the leaders, it opens doors in different ways.
Okay.
Get back to me, bro.
I don't. One of your moderators like, hold on, I'm processing. All right. Look, if an agent emails me and says, what's your split? That's the wrong agent for me. We've already started off in the wrong position. What's my value in your career? Much better question. But in the absence of value, it's just money. And so, and this is not a dig on anybody who does this, but there's certainly businesses where like, hey, we're going to give you $1 bazillion that we will take 6 years to renew. You got to stay with us for this period of time, for this however much money we're going to give you, and then we're going to do outrageous splits. And the agent never once stops and goes, how are they keeping their doors open? Because quite frankly, there are some agents, and not all, who are locusts. They're going to go to wherever it's plentiful and rich and they're being fed leads, and then they'll leave and go to the next company, the next one that offers them something pretty or whatever. But going back to the humanization, that question should be not what my split's going to be, because I can give you a lot of split, you won't make any money, and 0 of 0 is 0. It's how I'm going to support you, but first your client, by equipping you and training you and keeping you out of realtor jail and educating you on how to use the best tools in the right way based on you. And we challenge any agent who comes and talks to us to say, look, if you're going to go interview other firms and ask them for their education plan, don't ask them for their tech stack. Ask them for other agents in their company you can talk to about the culture and positivity, and look at the numbers. I think, we've been talking for a long time with agents about, look, if you take a listing today and it's overpriced, it's going to screw you later, because there is going to be a rating systems based on performance, if not tomorrow, then next week, where a consumer can go, Matthew's taken 16 listings, he's lost half of them, he sells at 80% of the market value as opposed to 110. Like, all that's going to be out there. Brokers need to be held accountable too. How productive are my agents, and are they making a living and honoring the promises to them? And then just a step further, dear agent, you hear about work, especially now that we have a very young generation of people who've been watching YouTube for years, talking about that 4-day work week and work-life balance. And a lot of them come from busy moms and dads who they saw pick up that phone during dinner, and that told that child who was most important, the client that agent's going to work with for 30 or 45 days. And we sit with the agent and go, we want to get you to a place where you're profitable and honoring the promise you made to your family, to take the time to be invested, but also to be a good parent and a good partner, so that you're not getting divorced in 3 months, all for a stupid trophy that somebody gave you. That's value, right? The split isn't, if you're here just for the split, I'm not your guy. If you're here to have a healthier life and be profitable, let's talk about it, but you're not going to get it at the highest split. There is a cost for those things.
You guys are pumping it out for me. You're like making me tingle when you talk.
That is not my resume.
It's on mine.
The promo tingler is not.
I am not going there at all. We need a harassment conversation.
Drugs affect us all differently.
True.
As you guys talk about these pieces, it's always interesting when you say 100% of nothing is nothing. And people don't realize that you can bring them in, and if they have no business, it doesn't matter if they're at 100%, because they can't generate any business anyway based on what that is. The other thing I thought is when Adorna, you said education. I'd just be curious to see how many people actually have incorporated a tuition reimbursement program in their brokerage.
We did.
You actually did.
Absolutely.
And we talk about that in the CRB classes, and we said it doesn't cost the brokers any money. Mm-hmm. It says that you reward people. You go get a certification designation, you take the course, you show me proof. Then on your next closing, then we will compensate X amount of dollars based on what that is. And then brokers say, well, I don't have any money for education, but we're not talking about you having money for education, but we know if your agents are smarter and they know more, you got less liability, right? They're going to make more money. And I've always said with my agents, I said this, I said, if I help my agents make a lot of money, I'll be just fine. So as we go through all of this process, this is what we have with you guys. So thank you all for your input on that particular question. Let me give you one more then. Another one. I got several. Let me give you one more. Can each of you share a personal leadership lesson? Maybe a moment that shaped how you lead today. Holly, you look at me. You ask me how old I am, and I ask you, how old do I need to be? Go ahead and tell us.
I think we're in this beautiful transition right now, and I know for me, my journey has definitely shifted a lot, and I consider myself just trying to grow. I think it's hard because so many times as brokers, our goal was to be the hero. We would come in and say things. And what I learned by being the hero, that maybe sometimes people didn't take accountability for their next challenge. Maybe they didn't seek to sort it out themselves because they were like, oh, my hero's gonna be here, my fixer. And so now I've really tried to step into this mindset of, how am I the framer? How do I help people by asking better questions and giving them context so they solution for themselves? And there's some days I'm gonna be honest, it is so incredibly painful because you're like, if you would only, and you can't do that for them. But whether it's working with my staff or my agents or family, it's just, hey, what do you think? Because having that context of framework to guide people, we're having better conversations, but it allows this autonomy for people to learn and grow. And now they're radiating, as they're meeting with the client, there's more confidence. And the confidence for that client, the value goes up exponentially. And that's been exciting for me, and also one of my big challenges.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Matthew?
Yeah, you asked for the story. So it was actually my very first broker, an incredibly nice guy, but I was 20-something. I went and spoke to the very first broker I spoke to, and he goes, we just don't, which is the biggest company, he said, we just don't hire young people. He said, you guys aren't going to be here, it's not worth my time and effort, all the rest. I was 20, I think 3 or 4. And it hurt a little bit. I left there and I went somewhere else, and I went to a small company with 2 agents and a gentleman who'd been doing this for 5,620 years. He told us all the time. And I got to finish the first story because it's a happier ending. That broker who told me I wasn't going to be good enough wound up selling his company because times got rough. And 5 years later, I was hired to come teach the CRB program for another brokerage that he was working for, and he had to sit there for a week talking about how being a good broker is important. Best class of my life. But no, I went to the smaller company, and the broker said, hey, there's a bunch of forms over there in the wall. You have to press really hard. There's 3 copies. And read them, let me know if you have any questions. And I went to my first listing, and I'll shortcut some of that story, but I sit there and I felt incredibly guilty as I got to page 2 of the 2-page listing agreement. And I looked at the seller and said, look, you're my first seller. Can I come back tomorrow with another agent? I just don't feel like I got a good handle. And he goes, you know what, we'll learn together. Don't try that, I don't recommend that tactic. But I appreciated it, and he actually said, God told me to go to the Philippines on missions, and I looked up the first agent I could find, and you were him. I'm like, thanks, big guy. Took the listing, got home, went, I didn't do the CMA I think you're supposed to do. I don't know the pricing, I think we're overpriced. Put it in MLS, couldn't sleep all night, got up the next morning, got my first phone call. She goes, this agent says, I'm showing the property. I said, cool. And I said, have you looked at the price? She goes, yeah. She goes, but I have to confess, this is my first client. I'm like, I got you. I'll hold your hand throughout the process. Another 2 nights of feeling guilty and sleepless because I didn't know what I was doing, and that my goal was to help this person. And I said, I will never let that ever happen to anybody else. And quite literally, my first transaction is, I want to be a broker, or at least a trainer, and that led into being a broker. And that has framed everything I've done. When that agent joins your firm, they should not spend the first 6 months figuring out who the hell they are and where stuff is. There's got to be a process to make them better servants of the person who trusted them. That's the goal.
So are you talking onboarding something of some sort?
From onboarding to end. But yeah, the first contract they write shouldn't be with a client, it should have been with you. The first time they explain a contract should be with you, the vendor or broker, not with a real live human client who's trusting.
Okay, Madam Adorna.
When I started going up the state ladder, I'm going to talk about state leadership. I was president-elect, and it was around 1996. 1996 was a pretty pivotal time for me. I had the brokerage, we had about 100 agents, and we built a really good company, and I was happy about that. But I was also very interested in major legislation for the state association, and had worked on 6 pieces of legislation that to this day still is foundational in Connecticut, which I'm very proud of. The problem was that the president did not appreciate collaboration. I'm really choosing my words kind of carefully right now. We were gasoline in a match. And he was a dim bulb. And at that point,
I love the audience participation. It's my favorite. So, thank you.
People are like, I know who she's talking about.
I thank you for my Connecticut folks here because I'm trying to be cryptic, and obviously that did not work. So anyway, he literally told me, we had a fighting match, the CEO, the whole thing, and he literally told me to sit in the corner and stay there all year, and Missy, you needed just to wait for your turn. And so I realized, I think at that moment, that's just not a way to, have an association run, number one. That should not be a leadership style for sure. And so that was the year that I started Dynamic Directions, as a matter of fact, and created the leadership puzzle. And realize that, it's very important to help leadership grow into a position in which they realize you don't have a damn year, okay? We're on a team, and you need collaboration and team growth. Otherwise, that team cannot survive. And that is a lesson that I've carried forward, not only through the brokerage years, but also very much in, the faculty that I now have. You look for the very best talent that you can. We make sure we all get along. I'm a consensus builder as a leader. That's very important to me. And every voice that's on that team is very special. So that was my leadership lesson, and that's why we have about 10 of us right now out there teaching that course, and it's been very successful.
Well, all right.
Don't ever call Adorna Missy.
Call me Missy. Right?
Well, I made the mistake of calling her Madam one day. And she informed me really quickly, she is not my madam. I was like, okay, I'm your mentee then, okay? All right, here's a question for you then. What does the successful, sustainable brokerage of 2030 look and feel like? What is that? All the changes that we're experiencing in our industry right now, and you guys are familiar with what those are. What would it look like? 2030. What does a sustainable, right, and successful brokerage look like?
Shit, I don't know what tomorrow looks like. 30. I don't know. Who wants to go first?
Who wants to go first?
Otherwise I'll go for it.
Okay. It's going to look a lot smaller. I think it's going to look a lot smaller, and I think profitability is going to be, we're getting an emerging generation, and this is not, please do not take offense to this. Well, I don't, it's unfiltered, take offense if you want. We have gone through an iteration when I first joined of people who were done raising their children and this was their career, or people who mom and dad own a successful real estate company or development company and they've inherited, so they had some seed to get going and it started. They were generally, and we can look at our own demographics of members now, 52% have some college but not a degree, the average age is about 64 or 58 from broker to agent. And you just look at kind of the demographic there. These were not people who learned, or if they took it in college, by the time they got to practical application, learned how to be CEOs of themselves, to budget their books. How many in this room who are leaders had a great producing agent only to find out they hadn't paid taxes in 2 years, right? And that they're coming to you and asking to borrow money from the firm. And it happens in every big brokerage or large broker I've talked to. We have to refine who we're allowing to affiliate with us for the liability, the public view, and the competencies of first being a good business person. And I don't think we've held our agents accountable for that for the past however many years. And that means hiring smarter. And if they want to be dual career, that's fine if you can serve the client's trust on a Wednesday afternoon. And if that other job you have doesn't get in the way of a Thursday showing or a closing that was rearranged. And if you can build a business plan and a marketing plan that puts that seller's home in front of as many buyers as possible, because it's good for the seller, not working really hard to double-end it because this is your side gig and you got to make it work. Does that make sense? This sophistication comes through, they need to emulate you doing it. I can't say AI is cool, video is good, and not do it. I can't say you should have a business plan and not have one and show it to them. We focus so much on prospecting that we don't focus on the quality of client that you take and building relationships and referrals. And we have a entire generation of agents out there who are blowing through 420 listings they paid $4,000 a month for, and they consider them numbers instead of humans, and they're not working with them afterwards to build a journey to have referrals of authentic clients. Online leads aren't going to be there much longer. SEO is going away because AI is taking over search significantly, and what AI is looking for is the reviews that the agent has, the time and market relative to other people, the quality of the photos. It's looking at data points of success, not merely who paid as much as they could to have somebody else do the work to get their name in front of them. So I think in 2030, you're looking at much, much smaller brokerages with brokers who are emulating business-like behavior, not just trying to stack licenses because they're getting affiliate funds.
That means I'm out.
But we love you anyways. We're here to make you tingle.
Oh boy, I thought this was my advantage point. You know what I'm saying?
As you say, not with this group.
Adorna, what do you have?
You know, a business is business. I don't know why we complicate this. Because the reality is you can't have a sustainable business if you're not surrounded by the proper team, the proper talent, and people are working at a high level of understanding of the shifting dynamics that are in the market environment, whatever that market environment is. I've always prided myself on surrounding myself with highly educated individuals where I am learning from them more than them learning from me, even though this is very much a sharing environment. And, you had alluded to classroom, right? And skill training. During the brokerage years, I will tell you, although people would be attracted to our firm, they were not allowed to stay unless they had 3 credentials within 2 years. And they had to have their ABR, they had to have their SRS, and they had to have the RENE. And because you cannot have, as a business person, an intelligent conversation with someone who isn't able to follow the ball. Okay, I'm fortunate that I never had a court environment or a court case, and I don't do adult daycare. So, I don't care what the business is. You need people who are at the top of their game, very focused. Balanced lives are very important. That's when they thrive, in my mind, and deliver superlative services because it's all about a customer experience.
I just want to jump in there and double down. If they're not healthy at home, they're not healthy on the job.
That's correct.
Right? And that's when you get drama in the office and they're lashing out everybody else. They're treating a bunch like crap because that's their one place they can do that. I think it's important.
Yep.
Okay, thank you too for that. Polly, you're special. I thought of one for you I wanted you to have. Latest statistics from NAR. They said that 74% of NAR members did not have a transaction in 2024. How does that translate? What does that mean? Tell me what does that say to me?
Well, that's been historic, right? Like, I think when you look back, going back to, I started looking at that stat from around 2000, when I was coming up through local leadership. On average, 55 to 60% of our membership did not close anything in that year. Because I was trying to gauge, like, okay, how do we do the budget? What does this look like? And so Monica and I were talking before the panel started that we're not seeing the membership reduction because people have hope. But we've also got an industry that is constantly changing every 2 years, and not the business changing, but people getting in because we're easy to get into. Now, we can all have the conversations. Is it too easy? Should we raise the bar? Sweet Lord, please stop saying that. I think for me, when I look at real estate, it's hope. It's the hope and promise that I can have a place for my family to grow. It's the hope and promise that I can build something that is uniquely my own. And when people get into this industry, it's the hope and promise that I can build something for myself. And that is so unique to us as entrepreneurs, and everybody comes at it slightly differently. Now I'm gonna go back to the question that you asked both of them. Because I think real estate's a big tent. And it's really important for us as leaders in this room, when we go back to our markets, to recognize that every broker is gonna come differently. We have a lot of broker owners, who maybe are specializing in that 1 to 20 people, but we have some companies out there that are specializing in that 3,000, 5,000, 20,000, and they're operating differently at scale, and that's not bad. What Adorna was able to do so brilliantly in her business and how she was able to maneuver was perfect for her and the agents that she attracted. I know I have a unique opportunity with the national company that I work for, and we don't franchise and that sort of thing, and none of it is wrong. What I do believe, though, when you look at between now and 2030, the brokerages, what is important is the platform that's offered to agents, that they feel safe, that they have backing, and that they have somebody that they can plug into. Now, everybody is going to look different. And I know for our company, our focus is, how do we do on time, on demand for those people who need us, knowing that some are going to need us in the middle of the night. Cool, what are the resources that I can build for those folks in the middle of the night at scale when my brokers are sleeping? So is that a chatbot GPT that's giving them directions to our LMS for 10-minute micro learning, or question and answer around, hey, how do I do this, and a framework of like would it look like if I'm having this kind of negotiation? Yes, we're building those things, and we're going to continue to innovate in different ways, and then have a trigger so when the broker is in the office the next morning, pick up the phone and say, Emmy, I saw you were online last night. I just wanted to connect. Did you get your questions answered? How can I help you? And oh, by the way, I see you just took this listing. Congratulations. See, that kind of real-time opportunity is in front of us all. It doesn't matter if you have 5 agents or 5,000. It's how you create those opportunities to connect. And I think that that's what's so key between now and 2030, because the end-to-end for the consumer is they are expecting that package transaction. And the Rocket Redfin merger, that's just the tip of the iceberg. So how are we as an industry, as individuals with our brokerages, preparing for that end-to-end, taking care of the consumer? If we're not focused on them, it doesn't matter.
Okay, hold on. I mean, Holly, she gets the phone calls at me going, what the hell would you do with this thing from time to time? Because we are all working through what 5 years from now looks like. Mm-hmm. But I think there's some, and I don't know if it's 5 or 10, but there is some, as rapidly as we're changing, there is some truth between, I think, where the two of us are on this issue. Because management is saying, I'm going to build and I have them. We have in our firm, we have a GPT, because our state in the Commonwealth of Virginia, for some reason, has way too many libraries of forms for any one agent to remember. And so we built GPTs for those forms so they can go to ask that question 11 o'clock at night. That's management, answering the question. They call you up and go, does the seller have to make a repair if? Well, that's management. But the cultivating in the leadership has to happen at a much smaller scale. And I don't know that if I'm on, and I try to run up some of my office virtually, but I still got to drive down there, because there is not a single coaching model I've seen that works for every single type of agent. So I have to customize where they are, where their strength is, how to build them to the next place. And I think in 2030, I'm going to scale, and it may not be 20, maybe it's 5,000. Maybe it's 5, depending on your company and your scale. But I have to scale in such a way as to make them valuable to the consumer. And we're knowledge workers that have taken that crown as independent contractor knowledge workers, but not held our agents as brokers responsible for actually having the answers. We've held them responsible for calling me when they don't know. And I think there's got to be a coaching model that says, if you're a knowledge worker and that's your value to the consumer, what can you offer that they can't, that AI can't? And let me get you to where you need to be. And I don't know that I can do that as one broker to thousands, but I can do that as one broker with huddles of agents and a good solid mentor who doesn't have to be a manager.
I totally agree on the huddles, and I think that that's what our unique opportunity is at whatever scale you're in, is creating those huddles, but also it's the recognition of what people need in real time, and being agile enough to create it and go do it. Always. And I think that anytime we can do that, it's a win. If the consumer benefits, our agents benefit, the industry benefits.
Mm-hmm. And we have to be able to adapt with the technologies of the time and embrace them as they're coming. The foundational business skills are foundational. They're always there. It's the other tools that surround us that we have to make sure that we incorporate properly and, in essence, stop chasing shiny objects that don't work for us.
Special mouth. I like shiny objects.
I know you like shiny objects.
Well, look, this is so great that you guys, you thought that they got along. I know you did, but we get along. Can we get along?
We get along.
All right, okay. So here, we're going to go rapid fire now, because we want to leave a little bit of time for the audience to ask us questions. So this means that you're going to give me just short answers based on what we have. And so I'll ask you, are you ready?
Bring it.
Adorna.
Bring it in.
What one overrated concept in real estate right now? What's one overrated concept in real estate right now?
This was rapid fire?
This is rapid fire.
Okay. I'm going to go with brokerage is sharing fees.
Brokers are sharing fees. Holly, what do you say?
I like that one. I think one overrated is that AI is going to replace agents. No.
Because there is a statement, I actually put it down, it says AI won't replace the agent.
No,
It says
not
that
at all.
the agent that uses AI will replace the agent that doesn't. So when you go through those concepts, that's it. So you like that. Okay, Matt, what do you have? One overrated concept.
That you're going to build a business dependent on affiliate income.
You're going to build a business.
Building brokerage is based on mortgage and title, and if as long as you have all the bodies, the money will come from these other. I don't know that that's sustainable.
Okay, you don't think that's it? Okay, how about this one? Split or support? Which wins long term? Loyalty.
Support.
Support.
I'm going to go with a combo.
Okay.
Nice dissent. I see
Well, you know what? Think about it. To attract talent, there has to be a fair amount there, but there's no brokerage if, in fact, they're not profitable, right? It doesn't make any difference how much money you make, it's how much money you get to keep. And that goes right down the line. So if you pay fairly and offer the support that people need, there's no reason for them to go anywhere else.
Fine, I'm changing my answer.
I'm not, because the agents who are vacating this industry fastest are the ones with models and the highest splits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You gotta. I can't do the splits. I'll support somebody who can, but I'm here for the support.
Here's what I say when I teach broker management. I always tell people in those classes, all agents will leave you, but good management delays the process.
That's right.
Good management also accelerates some of them leaving.
Get out! Get out! You're gone. All right, here we go.
Right.
One word that defines great leadership. Each of you. One word that defines great leadership.
Curiosity.
Give me a minute.
Okay.
Empathy. Are you taking notes?
I always do.
Robert's up here scripting his next class, is what he's doing. This is why he's here. It's good stuff.
I'm telling my business, man.
All right, I'm going to go with reasonable reflection.
2 words.
Hyphenated.
You ever had those agents who make their own rules? Right, okay. All right,
Thank you. Yes, I do make the rules.
All right, here's one more. What is the worst tech investment brokers can make?
I'm going with chasing shiny objects. I'm telling you, I have spent, just one thing if I could, okay? Sometimes we don't realize that thing doesn't work with that thing, okay? I bought Top Producer 5 times.
You had it on the floppy disks?
Yes.
And then you had it on the smaller disks? And then you had it on the other things? And then you downloaded it?
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Me too.
I even took a tutorial, right?
When I moved to my office, I still had every version.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I moved them into storage because I might need it.
And one I never opened. So there you go.
Okay. Matthew, you have something?
Investing in online leads. I think if you invest in online leads to make it rain on the agents, they do not know how to cultivate that over a period of time, and they make one phone call and done, and it takes 14 to 17 steps. So brokers are paying a lot of money for online leads because they think that's what the agent wants, but they're not spending time to invest on how to get the agent to actually convert. So it's just wasted money.
So just quickly, how would you suggest that a broker might get an agent proficient at handling online leads?
I got a session, no, I'm just kidding. Getting provision. It's the same thing that we did to get them to sign a buyer agency agreement. It's about building a relationship over time, understanding where the consumer is and how we migrate them over to where we need them to be. It's a long process of meaningful connection and communication and incubation. And as a broker, I need to coach them how to marry a technical contact with a human response. And they don't. They just text or email and go, I reached out to them and they're done. We didn't teach them how to humanize the process, to understand. I said empathy earlier, that lead that comes in at 11:30 at night off of Zillow is a very scared young lady who's got a kid sitting on her lap asleep, whose husband just got orders and she's got to move, and they don't think about that. They think about why I responded to the email and they didn't call me back. It's a guy who's been living in this house for a year after his love of his life gets killed in a car accident. He can't live there anymore. In a moment of weakness, he emails the first agent he found online and said, it's time to sell this house. And he can't live there anymore because it reminds him of her. And we don't let the agents construct stories about this. They see an email, and when they respond by an email, they reduce themselves to only an email. And so that consumer is going to go to the first human who goes, let's talk about what your situation is and how we can get you this chapter of your life. We can be the supporting character, not the hero. And we as agents go, I'm the one with the license, as if 1.5 million other people don't have one. They should call me when I'm available. And why are they reaching out to me 11 o'clock at night? Well, because the kids are in bed, they have time to think, Zillow triggers something in their mind. We don't make our agents understand that story, so they're never going to convert. Most of them, even if they understand that story, won't convert, and yet we're just sending names and email addresses to them that we paid a premium for. I don't think it's sustainable.
Matthew, that was profound. Now, I don't know if they got the instructions, rapid fire or not, but it was good that Matthew was sharing it with us, because this.
I can't talk any quicker.
This is the kind of leadership we have. All right, we got one more before we open it up for questions. And here's the scenario. Adorna, you're on one side. And since you get along so well with Holly, she's on the other. You're leading a mid-sized brokerage. You have a limited budget. Do you invest in recruiting tools or agent training first, and why?
Okay. Agent training all day long. Like I said, I had a brokerage that we reimbursed for all of that. And you will then attract the talent that you want. So for me, it was building on a skill level first, because at that point, I could build on the collaboration, we could work on profitability, we could do all of that because we had a sustainable platform to work from. And then the recruiting, actually, I had the agents do. And what I told the agents was, okay, you just co-broked on this transaction with somebody. Do you ever want to work with them again? And sometimes the answer was, hell no. And then we knew who not to go after. If in fact someone had a great experience, we thanked them for that experience, and then we invited them to join us for some training or something like that. It worked out very well.
Okay, Holly, is there a counterpoint to that?
I think I'm in a both and world. I think that a lot of brokerages, it's teams that open their doors as a brokerage because they think they can do it better. And so they've got a certain skill set that is already in flow. And in that moment, they don't know what they don't know, but the opportunity is, how do I stay in flow and know that I need to bring people on? And so it's feeding. And so they are immediately in recruitment. I think the opportunity in bringing people in is now you also get to customize to them. It's that recognition of, oh my gosh, I just brought in Evan and he is operating at this level. Evan, what are some key things that made you want to come with me, that we can collaborate on together and accentuate your goals. And so I think that becomes an opportunity, especially as you're seeking top producers or whatever. It's like, how can we be in a mutually beneficial relationship? And what does that look like? I have a platform, but how do I help you go to next? And what does that look like? And so sometimes you start building with that person you're bringing in, and that becomes a really unique opportunity. Now, not everybody has that foundation or platform to do, and that's okay. Know who you are, be very intentional, and then build from there.
Okay. Matt, not to you left out, you have that little, would you like to say something?
I said too much already. I wanted to end on a high note. No, I just want to say with the right technical proficiency, every tool an agent needs can be done for free online. So if I'm going to go with the both, if you coach them and teach them how to use the right tools, almost everything that they would need for the basics, if they are technically savvy enough, they could bring themselves from Google Docs to Notion for CRMs. I think it's the coaching first, but I don't have to provide the tools. That's my hybrid answer. They could.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Can I add? I mean, you can't invite company to the house if your house isn't in order. And systems are really important in a firm, because if you don't have everything like a well-oiled machine, they're gonna like walk out the door because there's no paper in the copier. I mean, it's always some stupid thing like that. So, I think that, when I look at what attracted me really to REBI was the systems that were there for brokerages, because I didn't have to reinvent the wheel. All I had to do was really plug and play at that point, and the business management courses that we were offering were absolutely essential to creating profitability in my firm. Yeah.
Well, with that said, I hope we've given the audience enough to prod them that they might have some quality questions that they might want to ask you all. So we're going to open it up to see if any of you superstars in the audience have any questions for this illustrious panel that we have here.
There are no shy people in this audience. We know them.
Questions for the panel?
Personal or otherwise?
We'll take anything. No problem. Ask us whatever you want.
Except for that.
Yeah, he was already called out.
Yeah.
So this has been on my mind the whole time, but I don't know if it fits for this particular forum. What's the one thing that local associations need to be doing the most right now for brokers and brokerages?
Bluntly, I think local associations and state associations need to be hyper-focused on the communication that they're giving to the brokers. Because right now, they're going to the agents, but they're not necessarily accountable and having conversation with the brokers, and that's a problem. And in many instances, brokers are an afterthought, and as a result, like changes are being made, or the people who are creating forms or on forms committee are protectionism, and so we're getting the broker-to-broker compensation that's still there that should have gone the way of the dodo last summer, but we've still got it, and states are like, well, no, this might be hard to change. Well, I'm so sorry, there was a lawsuit. Did you hear? And so that's what I'm seeing consistently. And then the wind up to that is now MLSs. Because at this point, MLSs and the short-sighted that they have in protectionism, in forcing brokers to jump through hoops that are absolutely asinine in, well, we need to supervise you, you need to be supervising better. Yo, that is not your call at all. And me sending you specific contracts is not going to make you better. It doesn't make me better. You're just extracting more pain and friction. Why do I need you? Because it's going to come really close that I won't need an MLS and I will leave. And that's what I think that locals and states need to recognize, is that we will have a turning point for some brokerages that they've extracted so much pain and overregulation in their risk management that it's no longer friendly.
See what you did?
Robert, if I could, Robert, hold on. If I could, yeah.
Okay.
Because I have one other approach here. The associations, both the CEO and also the professional development directors out there, need to get out of that office and go to the brokerages from the top down. They absolutely have to create relationships one-on-one with these folks and ask the question, what are we here to do for you? How can we help you? And I don't care what as you go, from the top, right? The largest brokerages want professional development skill training on a proprietary level because they want to deliver value to their agents. As you get into the large, mid-size, small, those are general population courses, and those work out very well. But you still need to ask the question, how can we help you? What do you want from us? And you have to develop that relationship. And if you don't give those broker owner managers the information first, before you give it to your agents, the agent population, you have completely screwed all of this.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, right.
Was it Evan? Somebody over there. Yes.
Well, as usual, Holly read my mind, so she answered that question that I had. But for the associations, I'm going to hit on that again. What would you all recommend? Tools, training. What should we be focusing on?
Tools or training?
Neither one. Engagement. I mean, look, I hear this all the time. Brokers don't read, agents don't read. It's BS. They're watching YouTube videos to learn. They're going to Facebook. They're seeking out information they need right now and at the time. And I think we're tooled to death. Is that a phrase? Yes. Yeah, okay, we're tooled to death. And the education that the brokers sign up for is continuing ed. It's how to keep in your license, and it's this and that. They want to be heard. And they don't need us to be here's the email where we, the association, are the hero all the time, but rather an invitation to come tell us how you're the hero and we can be your guide or sponsor. How can we create a PowerPoint in a box each month for your meeting to get statistics and data and save you some time? Right. I think that's probably a tool that you're looking for, but I don't know what to create without hearing what their needs are. And the needs in XYZ in this state and my local are different. And I need to be heard by a broker or be heard as a broker as well.
I think sometimes, Samuel, we don't know what resources are available to us that you already got. And I don't know that I would encourage any association right now to go spend money on new tools, because I think business-to-business SaaS will be gone in the next 2 years. Like, I fully expect SkySlope to go the way of the dodo. Dot loop, peace out. Because of how easy it is for brokerages to create their own and eliminate those contracts. So I would encourage associations to start to think the way of business, and how are you maybe getting really lean on what you're spending money on, but then plugging in those different resources that are either available from the state that you've got locally, or even like an affiliate like REBI, because when you look at that program that's in the middle of every table, there is so much meat and content in there that the brokers back home don't know. And that's information that any association can take back and say, oh, by the way, we have these connections, and if you're bringing on new agents, there is something that is available for you. There's a dashboard. We can plug this in for you. Would you like some help? We can get a rep from the Real Estate Business Institute to support you. We have those connections for you. So that relationship and collaboration, yes, please.
There's also an assumption that it's one size fits all. Associations need to diversify in understanding who their demographic audience is to start with. Because, there was one association I had worked with in which 85% of their membership came from 4 companies. That is really different than 80% in another association coming from small and medium brokerages. The tools are different, the systems are different, and the needs are different. And so an association without doing a demographic study is shooting blind.
Good question. I got to run one of the best meetings I've had this morning.
Thank you for being
Thank
here.
you. Oh, this morning. I see you at 9:20.
I'm at it the whole day.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Rick? I'm sorry, come on.
Good morning, thank you for all the information. So, for the new brokers or those who are planning to get started, so what would be like the biggest challenge to get started in today's environment? What do you need to focus on?
I think one is know the regulators are trying to get spicier, and I mean that with great affinity for our friends at Arello. I think it's really important if you are going down the path to launch your own brokerage, it's dig into those rules and regs, know what you need to know so you can run an efficient, smart business. Have an efficient, smart business plan because there's going to be unforeseen expenses you don't recognize in everything from E&O to if you're renting office space, the insurances, etc. And have that just really detailed out. We always tell our agents have a year's worth of reserves. I think in brokerages right now, you're probably looking at close to 2 years. I think that it's really imperative that you need to decide who you are before you open the doors. Are you going to be a competing broker or are you going to be a non-competing? And if you're non-competing, how are you going to be so proactive in helping your agents achieve success that keeps your doors open? Because you're relying on them to pay you. And if you're going to be a competing broker, nothing wrong with that, but recognize you've got to have somebody in the wheelhouse to guide those agents while you're out hustling to keep the doors open. So it's a mindset shift you've got to be very, very specific on.
All right, thank you. We got one more. And then we want you all to know we have a gift for you at the end. Our president, they're going to come tell you that. So don't leave just right away. We want to make sure that we extend that gift to you before you leave out the doors. Rick?
So if each company is building its own tech stack, and if each company is saying MLS is becoming irrelevant, what's the future of co-broke?
So, I love you.
Well, thank you all for coming today.
Yeah. So I think a couple of things. The idea of co-broke died last summer.
And I'm not talking about the money.
No.
I'm talking about the relationship.
I think the relationship, the cooperation, we have always had. And I think that opportunity continues forward. I believe in a marketplace where we all work collaboratively because the consumer wins. And that is what differentiates North American real estate from the rest of the world. And when you look at how we continue to collaborate and share ideas, I mean, we're from 3 very different kinds of brokerages in different sizes and mindsets in parts of the country, but we're able to come together for the betterment of everyone in working with our REBI or our local or our state association. And that sense of collaboration in doing better, I don't think goes away, because I think that's so ingrained even before we saw the realtor organization come into some marketplaces. And I think that that's the uniqueness of what goes forward. I'm not worried about tech stack. I'm worried about how we take care of one another, because if we rely on regulators to do so,
that's a problem.
We're not going to get there. So I think that as broker to broker and sharing, we've always had those opportunities for collaboration. And that's where I go back to my local association. Keep bringing us together. We may not show up the first, second, or third time, but 4th or 5th, and that value add is there. And I get to see Emmy, who I had a cross sale with, and man, we fought it out for our agents. Oh my gosh, I'm so glad to see her in the parking lot. That makes a difference locally, and that's the opportunity we have.
For me, the collaboration is important, and a catalog of property that's openly available is crucial. I think it's crucial for all of us. The consumer doesn't want borders, for sure. We're all on some line, and hiding property is probably to no one's benefit, certainly on the consumer side. So if we can have a marketing platform that allows for that property to be available, especially as inventory is going to start to increase, I think we're going to be needing each other more and more. I think we have forgotten in these last 5 years of what we will call a seller's market and limited inventory, that we could just get rid of that thing right away. People are forgetting when we had that property on the market for 325 days. And you were begging your cooperative, competitors to show that property. I mean, you'd be calling them all up, you're texting them all and say, basically, I'll have your baby come show my property. So, those that are hiding the inventory, I'm going to tell you.
I never offered that service.
I did.
Well, thank you for that. As a moderator, they're looking at me for time.
I bet they are.
No, but I want to answer very, very quickly. We up here don't have all the answers into that question. I don't know. I have no idea how that works. But what I do know is if you don't have Rick's contact, go find him, because he's quite frankly going to be the most thoughtful and intelligent person about this and the other topics in the room. And when I don't get the answer I want from him, I call Holly, who's a very thoughtful person. That collaboration in the MLS isn't what I'm worried about. It's the collaboration we have right here. Right? I don't know I just don't know what that is and what that answer is. I know we'll find some way because that's the American nature to do so. But I need to have the Hollies on my one side and the Ricks on my other to try to help me figure out what's next as a brokerage. And I'm hoping that the mass confusion and nonsense that's going on right now is going to bring us back to that. So I don't have an answer to that question, but I can tell you the solution lies in a bunch of us continuing to discuss it.
Okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to tell you all it's been a plum pleasing pleasure to be able to moderate with you three superstars today. I am going to give this over to the powers that be, so you all can make it look now.
The Meet the Moment podcast is a production of the Real Estate Business Institute, an affiliate of the National Association of Realtors. Special thanks to CEO Jenny Scheib and to Dan Shea, our editor and content producer. The views and ideas expressed in this podcast are not necessarily shared or endorsed by REBI. All recommendations made in this episode were merely provided as best practices. The practices of any realtor are subject to the Realtor Code of Ethics, the laws and licensing jurisdiction, broker policies, and competent legal advice. Visit www.rebinstitute.com for more information, resources, education, and upcoming events.